Welcome to another episode of Under the Barbell Strength podcast. I'm your host, Colton Haynes, and if this is your first time tuning in, we'd love for you to follow and subscribe. Feel free to leave us a comment with any questions or topics you'd like for us to cover. The purpose of this podcast is both educational and an opportunity to showcase some incredible coaches I've had the privilege to meet throughout my journey in the strength and conditioning world. I think listeners will enjoy the diverse range of guests who will share their experiences in coaching, enhancing athletic performance, nutritional strategies, speed training, and exploring the mentality of being a strength coach. By uncovering the weight room philosophies and strategies that make these strength coaches successful, you'll gain valuable principles to elevate your own team's performance. So join us as we grow together one conversation at a time. Joining us today is Coach Tommie Moore of Prairie A&M. He is currently the Director of Strength Conditioning. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Man, appreciate it, Colton. It's been a long time coming. I really appreciate the opportunity to go ahead and talk today.
For sure. Everyone knows who you are. A lot of love from all the schools you've been at. Nothing but good things to say. So we're excited to talk about it.
Oh yeah, man. Listen, it's been a heck of a journey all through my years. And listen, every place that I've been has really treated me like family, and I really can't say I've had a bad experience anywhere. And like I said, through the attrition and the matriculation to each school, again, it's been amazing in this journey, and I'm truly blessed to say I've been a lot of places in my short career, even though, like I said, less than 10 years, but I'm just blessed.
For sure. And, Prairie A&M is a Division I school, as everybody knows. And, you had to start somewhere, though. Talk about when you started interning. How did you become a strength coach? What got you into liking it all? And, just kind of elaborate on all that.
Yeah. So I got my start, and kind of take a step back. So like I said, I was a walk-on. So I know with how college athletics and college football, the way of going, the way of the walk-on is kind of diminished a little bit. I know everybody watched Rudy and his story and some of the great walk-ons, even Baker Mayfield, a lot of people that started out as walk-ons and then got a chance to earn some things and really do a lot of those things. I wasn't one of those guys, but at the end of the day, for me, I took that step out of high school just because, like I said, I wasn't a highly recruited guy, but I knew I wanted to play sports or play football at the next levels. I chose to do that. I chose to walk on at South Carolina State University, and then I was also in the Navy, in the Navy Reserve, so I was active duty and deployed to Afghanistan. Like I said, got a chance to go to Germany and some other places down there in the Middle East. So my time, like I said, leaving and coming back, when I reached out, I first was going to play linebacker, and then I ended up being H-back. So I was talking to the running back coach there at the time, and then I ended up talking to my tight end coach. Well, he was tight end coach and also H-back coach Nigel Pearson. So I was working for him, and then I'm like, okay, well, I got done playing. What do I want to do for an internship? And I'm like, man, I want to coach. So I remember sitting down in front of the computer, in front of the TV, on DV Sport, trying to break down film and doing all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, man, this is different. Even though I want to coach, this is very different. So I took that chance, even though I was interning with the school, and I started being a high school football coach at Edisto High School in Orangeburg, South Carolina. So went there, did that for 2 years, and then kind of taking a step back again. As a walk-on, you do everything just like everybody else, but the weight room was somewhere that, when I first got there, it was okay, this is kind of like a culture shock a little bit because, hey, I'm doing things nobody else had already done or whatever like that. So I got a chance to meet Torrey Becton for the first time. And being there, meet him, even though I was kind of in that inaugural kind of season and shock, I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm only be here for a semester, and then next semester I got to go to boot camp. So I had a small sample size with him. So then once I went to boot camp and came back, then John Williams was my strength coach. And then, after John Williams, I had Keith Swift. So Keith Swift was somebody that I wound up interning for. And I ain't lie, I had a little bit of a reality check because it was I was used to getting up and doing those early mornings as a player, But then those early mornings as a coach is something entirely different. Entirely different when you got to coach other athletes and you being a student have to kind of be able to like separate yourself between coaching your peers and then also like, okay, well, hey, I'm a coach now, even though, hey, we still go to school together, but I got to kind of flip what that kind of authority figure looks like, and then being able to actually lead people or assist them in their journey to athletic performance. So I started interning, and then it was one day, I think I was late a couple times, and he literally sat me down and was like, hey, I don't really think you want this. I really don't think you want this because at the end of the day, I'm getting up early. I got a family. Like I said, you're in college. Yes, you got to make a decision between what you want to really do. But he told me that day, and I'm like, I had to go home, and I really had to think about it. I'm like, man, do I really want this? And I told myself, like, with like a shred of a doubt, I said yes. So I came back, and after that, never was late again. Never was late again. That told me right there, this is where I needed to be. Where I needed to be. So I ended up graduating, and I kind of took a dual role at Middle Georgia State University, and I was the quote unquote the head strength coach, and I was the defensive line coach. So I did that for a year, and then like I said, there was an NAIA school, and we ended up start playing club football first, and then trying to move up to NAIA, but like that was that inaugural season, and went to go play with a coach and go work for Kawaki Thomas, who played for the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins, who was the head coach at that time. And then I met pretty much like one of my best friends, like an older brother to me now. My defensive coordinator's name was Brandon Wright. We're both from the same hometown. Never met ever, but I ended up going to work for him. And lo and behold, like I said, I can call that guy up just about anything. And he saw like me coaching, and then me like how the energy that I put into being a strength coach. He said, man, you need to go be a strength coach. And I said, why you say that? Like, I'm not saying that you can't coach, but I see what you did with these guys with limited resources, weight room and stuff like that. There was no weight room budget. And he was like, yeah, you need to go be a strength coach. He said, I don't care if I have to fire you, but you need to go be a strength coach. So I was like, so you want me to basically start all the way over. That's what you're telling me. You want me to start all the way over. Because I went from getting paid to saying, okay, well, you got to start all the way over, and now go find your internship to do, then find your GA, and then like, I mean, the rest is history, really. But I'm glad he gave me that push and told me that, like, hey, this is what you need to be doing.
You interned under some not only big schools but some big name strength coaches too. Talk about your time in Florida and also Kentucky and how you got there.
Yeah. So, yeah, and another situation where I'm just blessed. Like, my family is from Florida, and looking on Football Scoop and stuff like that, looking for internships, and it was like, man, I put my resume together. I was applying everywhere. I didn't care if it was the East Coast, West Coast, South Carolina, California. So like, I put out a bunch of feelers, and just trying to put my resume together and kind of detailing like the military experience that I had and like the short time that I was working in strength and conditioning outside of being like a quote unquote an intern when I was a student intern, and a bunch of people reached out to me. So, and to this day, so I kind of made it. It was down to like two schools. So at first I was like, man, I'm going to Stanford. Like, Stanford is the upper echelon, working with the type A personalities. If you can coach guys there, and you can coach them anywhere. So just like we talk about coaching at Division II or any other level, you can coach anywhere. So I'm like, I'm going out there, but then I'm like, okay, well, I need a job. Outside of that, I got to be able to pay some rent. I mean, I got, like I said, being in the military, I'm a veteran, so veteran benefits ain't just gonna cut it. So I got to find a way to get it done. So that ended up kind of not happening. Then I said, okay, well, I'm settling my eyes on the state of Florida just because I got family there and I got family support if I need anything. So, and it came down to Florida State and Florida, and it's like, and it's like almost like a rivalry within a rivalry because I'm actually like a longtime Miami fan because my dad is from Miami. So it wasn't like, oh, we'll go to Miami. I'm like, okay, well, that's a little bit too close. So I ended up taking a visit to Florida State, talking to Coach Joey Carnes, who was the internship coordinator at that time. He's now at the Naval Academy, and then went down to Florida. And when I went to Gainesville, it just felt different. It felt different when I went there. and talking to Coach Zach Aggenberger, who's still, like I said, working with Coach Savage. They're at Ole Miss now, and he was like, "What do you really want out of this?" And from a guy like me, like I said, I grew up in a rural town in South Carolina. So like I said, Sumter, South Carolina. Like grew up in Pinewood, South Carolina, like Sumter County, and and I was like, man, I want to be able to not only just showcase and coach great athletes and be able to kind of show them about life, but then also give them lifestyle habits to be like better, like citizens of the community, because I think that's the ultimate goal versus just trying to make great athletes. Like great athletes, great people, but if you can mesh those two together, then I think you put yourself in a situation where you're really pouring into people and not just for a trophy or anything like that. Like again, if you get a trophy, like hey, you get a trophy for hey best dad. Like your kid comes home and it gives you that, and it gives you a sense of pride and a sense of responsibility that hey, I'm doing the right thing. So went to go work for Coach Savage, and it was a great experience because it was another reality check. You get there, like, hey, we as the interns, we were doing the workouts that we gave the players before the players even did them. So we knew how they felt, knew what coaching cues they used, we knew what techniques. Like it was that kind of internship. Everywhere we went, it was more or less like you had a sense of urgency doing what you were doing. And now it's not like the facility is now. When they upgraded, everything was so close together. It was Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, and then you're walking maybe about half a mile or more to the indoor if we got to go do some stuff. So it kind of, it hardened and gave you a sense of toughness that, hey, if you got to carry some sleds on your back, we got to carry them over there. It wasn't a golf cart or a truck for everything. So it taught me how to work in this industry, and I'm so grateful for that. And like after that ended, the relationship and the pipeline that they had, the internship curriculum, Coach Kevin Rodriguez was the head strength coach at Delta State University. So myself and Adam Lang, who was my another guy that I interned with, we ended up going to Delta State. And so we sent our interview, like, okay, Cleveland, Mississippi. Never been to Mississippi. So before I get there, I'm like, okay, well, let me go work for another staff before I go there, before I go take my GA. And then I'm like, okay, let me go somewhere else I've never been. I'm saying, well, if I'm already in the SEC, why not go to another SEC program? And then I kind of set my sights on Kentucky because I think at that time, Mark Hill and Corey Edmond, I think they were before their times being in the SEC, because you talk about two guys that was the director of performance and one was the head strength coach, and so they balanced out each other. And like I said, two minority guys, I'm like in the SEC, so I'm like, okay, I got to go see what they're doing. So and then another instance where I went to go work for them, and then Deontay Mack was the internship coordinator. He's now at Eastern Michigan. So just went to go work for good people and saw another style, know the training style. So like, okay, what does you talk about like conjugate style training? Being in the variety tree and what that looks like now. Like, okay, you get a blend of, like I said, Bondarchuk. You get some triphasic in there. So some good hypertrophy training, and then it's kind of like the reverse side of it. Like, hey, hypertrophy doesn't always equal that like great amount of reps, but then you can also get hypertrophy from greater amount of sets. And so that was something that I learned in there. And I think what he told me was like, when I first got there, Coach Ed was like, hey man, what did you learn? So I told him what I learned. He was like, that's it? I was like, Coach, I said, to be honest, I learned a lot of information, but the main thing I took away from it was how to work. He was like, okay, now we're going to show you this side of it. Not to say like he was like I was so short or anything like that. He's like, you got to work on retaining information, but at the same time, you learn that. So now let's kind of refine and give you some infinite details that you can take with you along your journey. So I did that, and then I had to cut the internship short because Coach K-Rod needed me a little bit earlier than what he thought. So I didn't even get to finish that internship, but the time that I was there, I had a blast.
Yeah, that's awesome. You intern. I feel like the art of interning is slowly going away in this community.
Yeah, it is, because I think like that's how a lot of people in this profession, at least me,
Started. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Same.
yeah, it's like how you cut your teeth. And if you're willing to go work for free and like willing to go show to somebody like, even though this may not be paying me monetarily, like it's paying me through experience. And then when I use that, and when I go have that, and then I take from there like the little small things, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make this the best job ever. Like I don't care what the salary is, but I'm gonna make this the best job ever. And sometimes you're able to do that and leverage that into like being able to stay and get hired on like as a part-time or a GA or whatever the case may be, or take that to a full-time spot somewhere else. Like nobody really wants to do that anymore. And I know as the economy changes and stuff like that, but sometimes you got to make a way. Like it takes what it takes. Because I mean, I've been in a situation where I worked places and I didn't have an apartment. I slept in my office. Like coach had we had sectional couches. I mean, remember, it's three of us. Like three of us had when I was at Middle Georgia State. Like even though it was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be a full-time coach, quote unquote, but we slept in our office. Like when three coaches, one person on one couch, one person on another couch, one person on another couch, and then we showered in the rec center at night. So I mean,
Oh, it's crazy.
hey, so it is what it is. In the middle of Cochran, Georgia, I mean, it's not a lot of apartments and housing and stuff like that. I mean, you had like student or campus housing if you was kind of fortunate enough to get a RA position and you got an apartment where you could go live on campus and stuff like that. But again, that's what we did. And then even the other coaches, they had full-time jobs and they come to practice after they get off work. So I mean, like again, it's sometimes it's that grind that sometimes you don't know about, but I think the grind it kind of makes you better. And so even the balance of between working smarter not harder, but I mean you can still work smart and then still work hard and blend the two together.
Yep, and so one thing we have in common, obviously, is Delta State. We both worked there for a while, and you even talked about it on your past internships. You learn through experiences and things you can take from other schools and make your perfect toolbox with it. So I think that Delta State definitely showed me some things, and like you said, how to be a better coach and do that because at the end of the day, the athletes are your best coaches, and you learn from them. You talked about your experience in the military as well. Do you use any of those tactics in coaching today?
I do. And I think with bless you, coach. I think within that in that time today, so like with the military, everybody thinks like, okay, I was in the Navy. Wasn't a Navy SEAL. I wasn't. But I had a chance to work around a population of people that, like I said, were SEALs or working in Joint Task Force during my short time, like 8 years pretty much. So we say short, but not really short. So, and I think I use more of the mental techniques more than just quote unquote the physical, because even sometimes when we do things from like accountability things or just like hey competition and what that looks like and blending that together, and it's kind of like almost like a little viral video or kind of a saying that I said one day we're here. I'm like, literally, you have to search your soul for whoever you want to be, and like whoever you were, they no longer live there. So basically, all that meant was like everybody says they play the game of football, they do what they do because of something, whether that be a family member, whether that be for just like the upbringing that they had, or whatever the case may be, or like, hey, I got to get my family out of whatever situation. But at the end of the day, if we wake up and just like I tell our guys, like if you toe the line, if like soon as your eyes open for that day, you're starting something. And when your feet hit the floor, you start walking. And are you going to really finish what you started? Are you going to finish what you start? So you really have to search your soul and ask yourself at the end of the day, did I get everything out of that day and did I honor what I do this for? So, and we can't be you talk about growth. Growth doesn't, like, you don't grow in comfort. And so when you go day to day, week to week, month to month, you shouldn't be the same person. And especially year to year. Especially year to year. So, and some people have that identity crisis because we look on social media sometimes and we want to be like somebody. But you can model certain things. Not saying that, but within the confines of yourself, be a better you. But then don't be like, okay, I want to be like this person, because sometimes you can want to be like a person, but then you don't know what kind of hell that they're going through outside of what you see with your own two eyes. Like sometimes people have to do other things in the dark to literally be that version of themselves. So And I know we use social media as a conduit to really kind of like rally our fan base and like, hey, this is a glimpse of what we're doing. But we're really starting to pour into these young guys, and they're starting to answer that call and answer the bell.
You've been everywhere from D2 to Division One, SEC to FCS now. What commonalities, not really differences, but what commonalities do you see throughout each level?
I think the biggest thing that I see is, like I said, you have and there's like no knock on anybody, but like you have three levels of people. Like you literally have contenders and guys that really want to compete. You have guys that are consistent with just being okay sometimes, but then you have guys that like, all right, are you pretending to really love this game? Or some things that you want to be, or are you really just so you just really just here just like okay just to make somebody else proud. So and I think that's consistent, but from a not saying that's a bad thing, but the good part is I've worked with good kids, good people, good young men. I'll say that because we ain't gonna call them kids, good young men and good young ladies because I've like I said I've done more than football, done more than football. So and I think sometimes they don't know what they don't know because if they haven't been taught or you haven't, and there's not like a one size fit all kind of coaching style to everybody because some people you have to coach a little bit different. But the unique thing is to be able to get what we need to get out of these athletes, you have to be consistent, like I said, with the discipline because they want that. But if you waver at any point, then like I said, they're going to take advantage of that. And some people are just wired different, so you have to work on finding, like I said, solutions to make it individualized, but then also make sure that the team is knowing that hey, he knows a little bit about me versus just him just coming and yelling or saying whatever we need to do or telling me to go, telling me to put more weight on the bar. But like, no, I want you to have intrinsic motivation to be able to make sure we can get the things done that we're telling you to do. Because and just knowing that it's always not like a break like conversation or a back and forth when we're trying to get some things because sometimes you got to battle your mind before you even get to kind of like battle the obstacle in front of you.
Yep, and you spend a lot of time in the HBCU world, which is, what I think is very intriguing. I keep up with it all, being from Mississippi. So kind of shed some light on the HBCU world and what you see as a strength coach
Yeah.
for multiple schools.
And I think it's a culture like nowhere else. A culture like nowhere else because yes, there is a pageantry and a rich history within, like I said, historically black colleges and universities and just with athletics in general because and like I said, we just talk about it just a simple fact. But like I said, they were made for us because inclusion wasn't always the option wasn't always there. So you have some of the greatest athletes that come out of HBCUs, and still to this day, we were able to build world class academics with world class athletics. And sometimes we just got to make sure we keep supporting each other because you can have rivalries all day. But at the end of the day, there are numerous HBCUs doing great things at every one of them. And through every stop that I've had, like I've kind of had my eyes open because going to Norfolk State. Like we played Norfolk State when I was in school, and but like actually working there and getting to know some of the rich history, that's been a great thing for me. And then going to work at North Carolina A&T again, a storied rival, being at South Carolina State, and just knowing that the kind of pride that they have about their university and of course about their athletics, and really kind of getting kind of into like the nitty gritty of why they do stuff and how they do things and why. So and then being here at Prairie View. So this is my, like I said, second time in Texas, um, kind of getting back, and I'm like, but at Prairie View, it's another storied place, but again, world class academics, and then you talk about also the 1890 structure here, like we have our own university farm here, have a farmers market every Wednesday, we have a retail meat market on Fridays. So and you talk about making holistic and like decisions to put health and wellness and academics and athletics all together, then it's been great to see. It's really been great to see. But just I know sometimes it's behind like, hey, the real show is the halftime show. Well, listen, it's some dang good football being played at this level too, and then you consistently see guys that end up going and transferring to P4 universities after having success at
And
a
playing.
level. Yep, and playing, and then actually being able to have opportunities to get drafted and go to the NFL after being at HBCU. Like some of them come straight from HBCU, or some of them have that, and then end up going to Power Fours, and then end up taking that next step. But it's like I said, it's a great world to be in, and I think sometimes people kind of take that for granted when you get in this league, or just like leagues, or as far as like SWAC, MEAC, CIAA, SIAC, other places. Like it's it's a great place to be in. It's a great place to be in, and also because it's what you make it too. It's what you make it.
Talk about some methods that you use in the weight room and things that you like to incorporate into your programming.
Yeah. So for me, like I said, again, going back like working at Florida, like I said, I'm a conjugate basement guy. So like again, I like to use my compound list. I like to start out with a power block and then work into my accessories, like trying to get total body work. And then as I moved on kind of into the profession, like I started implementing some French contrast work, especially with when I had my basketball teams and my jumpers and track, and then but I definitely would use that for like my skill guys in football, because going from each different movement, like okay, well, hey, how do I control my body? Like I said, with a loaded dumbbell jump, okay, how do I do that? Sometimes working maybe like bilateral, unilateral with a banded jump. And then you talk about putting a barbell on your back. Now, how do I do that? So that's all different type. You get different movement qualities and different areas work, but also you're getting, like I said, just good power development, good rate of force development, and like I say, working on RSI without even having force plates. So it's it's kind of changed a little bit, but I don't have a one style fits all kind of program. It literally is up to me when I get to a place and say, okay, what do we need right now, and what do we need going forward in the future? Because if I can look at the numbers, and then I can look at just hey doing quote unquote assessments, and because you can do simple hurdle mobility, and that'll tell you a lot about a kid and or about an athlete on how they move. So, and that can kind of tell you if you got some asymmetries or some areas in range of motion that you need to work on. So, but again, we are a ground based movement program, because like I say, you play the game on your feet. So we do Olympic lift. We do the total gamut. Like I said, we're going to use med balls, we're going to use kettlebells, we're going to use everything at our disposal to make sure that our athletes are taking that step. Like I said, not like the old way, bigger, faster, stronger, but now I want to literally do that through optimal ranges of motion, and just get our guys together.
So now, right now it's late February. We're in the middle of the off season.
Yep.
Talk about your approach to the off season. What are you trying to incorporate and achieve with your guys there, especially being a new coach?
Yeah, yeah. So the biggest thing for us, like, and this is probably the second or third time kind of doing it this way. So I'm starting out on the front end of an off-season program, because, like I said, any other time I've come into a program and it's strictly my programming, I've come in a little bit later, like right before fall camp, and it's not that much window to really have a lot of development. So like I said, because we're finishing up our APRE block right now. Like I said, getting some good work capacity and strength in right now. We'll do another mini block right before we get out of here for spring break, and then of course we're going into spring practice. So, and in the off season, you have different times where okay, hey, what's the priority, and how am I balancing that out? Because now football is starting to be the main priority as we add in OTAs, depending on like mixed in with our work days, because again, we're working on skill development, contact prep, and then once we get back from spring break, March 17th, like I said, it's go time then. So now I got to give them to the coaches, but making sure that within that APRE block, and as we go into kind of like like I said, my European block style, my undulating program, during spring ball. Now we're trying to keep those guys durable, trying to make sure they're staying flexible and mobile, and the fact that they can recover well based off of the meals that we're giving them, and also the prehab work and the rehab work that they're doing here with me during our open hours and in our training room, because we're blessed to be able to have indoor hot tub, cold tub, and we have a couple of sets of Normatec boots that can go in and get in for a matter of time and minutes just to kind of get the legs back, and then they can come and get some range of motion stuff and work with me. So that's kind of what we're focusing on. And then as we get into the summer, then we can get into, like I said, the full repertoire of what we need to get. Because now, like working on our light dynamic plyos, like getting our wicket runs, and then of course getting our big guys on our sleds, and also, like I said, with our resisted chain movements, and then also just kind of as we start doing some acceleration work, and then max velocity, and then just like quote unquote conditioning work. And so I like to let the sport condition, but then also I like to put in a sense to be like, hey, sprinting is like the best form of total body work. And again, you can load up an RDL bar, like I said, or load up anything from a posterior chain movement in the weight room. But at the end of the day, if they're not outside sprinting or doing that at maximum level or over 90%, then like I said, they won't be prepared to do that on a consistent basis. So now we're going to slowly, like I said, progress that. And then when we add our freshmen in, and then we'll get them on our developmental program, and then we're gonna get ready to look up, and it's gonna be August 30th, and we're gonna be in our Shell Energy Stadium and getting the chance to play TSU.
In the off season, how often are they coming in? Are they coming 4 or 5 times a week? Are you doing bigs and skill? Are they split up? Kind of talk about the frequency and all that.
Yeah, so we started out with 4 days a week, and now that we've added in our dog training days, so it's kind of like our version of mat drills. So now we go 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So Tuesday, Thursday in the mornings will be our dog training, and they'll be mixed in with our OTAs on the back end of it. So when we get into the summer, then we'll go 4 days a week, and then we'll be able to alternate, like I said, our lift only days, and then some days will be a lift and a run, and then Wednesdays they'll have that day for recovery, and then Fridays we'll max we'll do some testing usually on Fridays, because we'll give them that Saturday and Sunday off. It's kind of that perceived like 2 days basically off. Like, hey, now we're going back into Monday trying to get some maximal effort, but then also getting some movement proficiency as well as we start doing like I said, our full repertoire of what our Olympic movements look like. Because like I said, I'm a guy like you. Like I said, I clean, I snatch, like I say, I jerk. But again, putting them through ranges of motion, and I think that are optimal, because you never know what that output may look like. Like I said, because I think guys be like, okay, well, hey, we're not quote unquote Olympic lifters, but when you do these certain things, now is really focusing on, just like you talking about, a compound movement, but putting the joints and ligaments in a position to where you can withstand that stress, therefore you can be like durable throughout the season. And just doing the same thing over and over and over again, like I want to vary the stimuluses so that we can actually get some progressive overload, that where we're growing throughout the year. So at no time is there a maintenance phase in our program. Like, it may look different, it may quote unquote be a high-low structure, but again, we're still always going to get progressive overload to where we, like I said, we three in a deload, and then the deload just ain't a lightweight day where it's 50% and under. Like, hey, we may go ahead and, like I said, drop the reps a little bit, but like I said, if we drop in volume, then of course the intensity is still going to be at a level where the body is still getting that stimulus enough to grow.
Yep, and everyone's favorite word as an outsider looking in is sports specific. We know that's kind of like a funny term for us. But how position specific are you? Are you the bigs doing different movements in the skill? Are they doing the same thing? You talked about how in the summer they're pushing the sled compared to the skill guys running more.
Yeah. So both position groups, like I said, my big skill and then my combo guys, they'll all push sleds. It'll just look a little bit different, because like those guys, because we'll do some resistance sled work, and the skill guys, they still will push sleds, but it won't be crazy like a max effort push. It'll be more for, like I said, again, work capacity and kind of trying to increase the VO2 max with those guys. So it'll look a little bit different, and then versus the combos. Like when we do it in the weight room, everybody kind of does the same thing with a little bit of variation. So if we start out doing RDL work, like I said, my skill guys will do some unilateral RDL work just like with a nice little staggered stance with a nice little bend in the front knee, and then my bigs and combos, depending on like my backers and running backs. Like I said, they'll go do barbell work. They'll do barbell RDL. So now really focus on everybody's focusing it on, like I said, making a nice hip hinge. Like I said, tucking that chin to the chest and make sure we're taking that pressure off the low back. Make sure I have a nice flat back. That's really kind of the most position specific that I get. But outside of that, like I said, if my guys, like I said, between those skill guys, they're doing some more dumbbell work, then those skill guys, they'll come over and do barbell work afterwards. But like I said, again, we're just trying to mesh that part of it too, because again, we want to move heavyweight fast, but I want to make sure that my skill guys are being explosive as possible, and then also making sure the linemen, offensive line and defensive line, are having the power and need to strike and come out of those hips and be able to recreate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
Love that. And, you kind of mentioned off season a little bit there. There towards the in-season part, you get to camp. Are you tapering off or anything? How does camp look for you? And then eventually we'll talk about in-season.
So there will be a slight taper, like I said, coming into fall camp. But now, like I said, I've heard the term more than anything. Like we really want our practices to be harder than the games, and so the way we practice, the taper will be like a unique to deal to what our practices look like. And like I said, I've had great collaboration with my head coach, Coach Jermaine Jackson, on how we're going to practice, where we're going to have our rest periods in at, and how we're going to do our days to where, like, hey, well, today, coach, we're going to squat them on Friday, so now that we can get more red zone work to where we're 25 and in versus a lot of go balls, because like I said, with our offense, like I said, we'll take some shots, we'll do some different things, and we will run that kind of air raid up to, like I said, up tempo offense to where we're keeping those guys in a confined area. Like we're going to get that 90% sprint, but then also we're going to just kind of condense it down so that we talk about looking at that mechanical load, that player load at the end of the day is where we need to be to where we get the work done. But like I said, we're going to have physical practices, so that taper, like I said, sometimes it'll look different, but like the taper will come a little bit further out from ball. Then once we get there, so that's when we talk about being in that undulating period, so to where like we can balance that out with the physicality of our practices.
Yep, and then everyone's favorite topic is talking about the in-season portion. How do you change your approach and your tactics in season compared to off season?
So they'll kind of stay the same. The only difference will be as we talk about those guys who are on that travel roster. Their days will look different than those guys. Like I said, if you talk about from week to week, it may change because like some days or some weeks, guy may not travel, so or another guy may travel, and then we'll also have our Devo week. So usually, like we'll get our stretch and stride days in on Sunday, and then it will be the option to go ahead and just take your lift because our Mondays are our mandatory days off. Go ahead and take your Sunday lift on Tuesday, but we usually just go ahead and have everybody do that on that Sunday. So now when we get to Tuesday, then the guys have that extra time to go ahead and get in the playbook, like I said, meet and do some things and get prepared for the upcoming team that we play. But usually everybody will get like I said, 3 days, quote unquote, because we'll get a Tuesday and Thursday lift in, but then the Devo guys will get an extra lift on that Friday morning before we leave if we have an away game, but then we have a home game, but still always be in the morning time. So, and hit them with a little bit of 1x20 and man, and really get some size and I think the guys that we have in that Devo group, getting them to understand that this is an advantage that you're getting right now because now you get a chance to, even if you're on scout team, like be able to run different offenses and be able to develop athletic traits and skills. But then also like, hey, even though everybody's training throughout the year, like you have an extra day to get on everybody. So you talk about being able to, we talk about the standard of like, hey, it's 10 games or bust. So we want to be able to try to play 13, 14 games a year. So you talk about that many days throughout the course of the year that you're gaining on everybody. You're getting an advantage. So now it's really going to be imperative for you to take the time out to get in the playbook, study film, and then also make sure your academics are where they need to be. Because even though you're not going on these trips sometimes, or that playing time isn't, don't think of it as like a demotion or anything like that. You have to lead into that and say, hey, I'm going to take advantage of this and make sure my grades are where they need to be and make sure nothing is lacking.
Yep, and obviously you don't know what it was like at Prairie View last year, but talk about North Carolina A&T and even Coastal Carolina, old schools that you've been at. What is the development group like? Are they getting after it in the mornings? What days are they going extra? And then, talk about the environment and culture you built there.
Yeah. So yeah, those developmental guys, they get after it in the morning now. They get after it in the morning. I think, and I got this. So kind of take a step back. So when I went to go intern for Tory Beckton, who I like I say ended up was my strength coach for a short time when I was at South Carolina State. Every Devo group we get Friday 6 a.m. And I credit so Marcus James, who's the one of the assistant strength coaches there. He's been with Tory for a long time, paid him for a long time. We started off play we play Party in the USA. That is the intro song to the Devo Lift group. And I mean, guys are singing it and going at it. You hear barbells dropping. You hear guys like putting in the work. So that's literally the start off, because like it is literally a weight party in the USA on those Friday mornings. Excuse me. So like I said, we're getting after it, and I think it's the guys who started leaning into that and seeing the benefit of it. Like they were better for it, because like I said, we did that for the past 2 years. When I was at North Carolina A&T, and like I said, again, great place that I was having. It's like a great, and we talk about, like I said, from a results-driven standpoint, not like I said where we wanted to be, but at the same time, I think it started the kind of like the movement, but like the turn of like, okay, this is where we need to be, and this is the kind of support that we need to get to. And then even at Coastal, the culture was already set before we got there. Culture was already set, and you talking about like that the BAM movement, the Be a Man movement. It's like we want to do like we want to blend the fact that like when Coach Beck got there and then became Coach Chadwell, like hey, it's a party. And then Chaz got I want to give like I said, he had that thing rocking. I mean, we talk about some videos where man they're jumping through chairs and tables and stuff like that. And I think it was a genuine energy. And I think sometimes where we kind of confuse like strength coaches being a certain type of people, or just like not really kind of quote unquote putting on a show. Like we're very unique and like well-rounded individuals that we can have that sense of energy, but then also knowing what we're doing and talking about from the technical side of it and actually doing our job too. But shout out to those guys, and then Coach Quinn Barham coming from Ohio State and really trying to recreate that energy. And we talk about things on the sideline and really putting those guys in a great place. Being able to work with some great strength coaches over the years, like I said, between those two places, and now, like I said, we're just going to keep on taking that thing to where from a warm up, where we have that mental approach to start the warm up, and then we want to have energy, because it's you come out, it's like, hey, you want to get too high, get too low, but like, hey, have that energy. Like I say, hey, we're going to refuel right before the game, have the quick carbs, that sugar, and then we're going to be ready to go, because it's not a lot of, we try not to do a lot of coaching on Saturday. We try to do all that during the week, and then we want to just have our guys go out and play fast and play with, like I said, that dog mentality that, like I said, that we're trying to instill in these guys right now.
Yep, and obviously the head coaches have a lot of say in when they lift and all that kind of stuff. Does that change at different levels? Is that like, are they telling you, hey, we need to go this day, this day, this day?
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm fortunate to work with a head coach. When he presented me the schedule, and he asked me, he said, "Hey, coach, what days you want to lift them?" I said, hey, we can lift them this day, this day, and this day. So the way we started out, because we started our dog training, like I say, our version of mat drills, about 2 weeks into the season, or like I said, off season. So we were going 4 times a week, and instead of 3. So I'm like, hey, we can go 4 times a week. Like I said, we can start our GPP phase, and then kind of get the guys going and seeing what we have these first 2 weeks, and then we can roll into our 3-day-a-week schedule, because now we're balancing out the runs and any kind of field work that we need to get done. And then we added in the Saturday power hour. So our Saturday power hour is an extra work session and a way for us to stay within our, like I say, our care hours, to have those guys get in here, because it's a voluntary day lift. But like I said, when I get in here on Saturdays, and like I said, we start on Panther time. Like I said, instead of it's 9 o'clock, we start at 8. So Panther time, we walk in. I walk out there about 8:40, because I'm in my office, because I can see right out into the weight room. There ain't no blinds or nothing like that. Man, it's a full doggone house. It's a full house. And then I got that idea to do some stuff on Saturdays like that from Andre Bernardi, who's the head strength coach at Prairie University. Got a chance to go speak at his clinic a couple years back, and we're really grateful for him, because at first I wasn't doing a lot of speaking engagements or doing nothing like that. I was just trying to keep my head down and try to be the best strength coach I can be. So that Saturday power hour, man, it's turned into a deal where, like, hey, we talk about like voluntary work, like, but on the other side of that, playing time is voluntary too now. So so it's not a given. You have to earn that as well. But knowing that if guys need to work on something, or they need to say, hey, coach, what can I do for this, and this? I'm here for them. And I think taking that time out to be kind of a servant leader and not just be a coach in that moment, and really try to instill some things in our guys about the work ethic that they need to have in order to gain that extra edge if they want to play at that next level, if they have the aspirations to do so. Then we can use that all throughout the week, and then also use that on Saturdays.
Yeah, and what about the connection with Coach Jackson? How did y'all connect? Did he hit you up? Because obviously it's a big move going across the country like that. There's got to be a good connection there.
Yeah. So it's funny, man. And again, I just can't stop kind of really giving shouts out to guys in this profession who have really helped mentor me over the years. So how I made that connection was kind of twofold. Like I said, when I was looking for a spot after North Carolina A&T, just kind of doing my due diligence, reaching out to people and stuff like that, and then Coach Lonnie Maddox, who was the head strength coach at Valdosta previously with Coach Jackson, and then he ended up going to Kansas State. So I reached out to him, and I was like, hey, Coach, like, hey, you have any idea what Coach is going to do? He's like, yeah, I don't have any idea right now, but if I do, I'll let you know. So I think it's maybe about 4 or 5 days later, he hit me back and said, hey, man, send me your resume. So I was like, okay. I send it in, and he's like, I'll send it to the right people. And next thing you know, literally not even 30 minutes after that, it's New Year's Eve, and Sid Scott, who's the former director for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Coach Jackson did a minority internship with the Jaguars, and them being able to know each other. Like I said, we're all part of the same fraternity, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and we were kind of getting together. It was like, hey, would you be interested in strength coach job at Prairie? And I'm like, heck yeah, like no doubt. Like, I mean, I kind of like already, like I said, tried to kind of do my due diligence about the position anyway. So he's like, hey, send me your resume, and coach is gonna text you. And I'm like, okay. So not after that, maybe 15 minutes later, coach texts me and say, hey, do you have time to talk tonight? And I'm like, man, it's New Year's Eve. Like, I don't care. Like, hey, I'll watch the ball drop or the piece drop or whatever I'm going to do. Like, but I definitely want to have this conversation. So he literally called me, like I said, about 8 o'clock that night once he got off the road. And we talked for about an hour and a half. And, like, after that, he offered me the position. And, like, I didn't have a hesitation. It wasn't no 24-hour, 48 hours to think about it. I said, man, I accept. And it kind of went from there. So I think that was the opportunity of, like, kind of being where your feet are, but like, hey, God knows where you need to be, and we also have ideas of where we want to be. Because I had done some interviews at some other places, but it was a no-brainer. Like I said, I didn't even have to think about it. And the fact that I got to come back to Texas, I'm originally from South Carolina, but I enjoyed my time in Texas the first time when I was at UT back in 2021. It was like, okay, if I got a chance to get back to Texas and be in a situation where I have, just like I said, alignment with the staff of the administration, and they're really bought into to being able to give us the resources for us to do our job, then I mean, it's a no-brainer that I need to come.
That's what's important about is who you know. You said that. I mean, connections are huge, and I think that's why us strength coaches have to stay together because you never know what opportunity is going to come up. And so, going off of that, in your mind, what is the difference between a good strength coach and a great strength coach? What characteristics do they need to have?
To me, a good strength coach, of course, somebody that embodies what his program looks like, and I know everybody just depends on what they're doing. Like, hey, we all train to some degree. Some people train a little bit harder. Some people do some other things that may seem unorthodox to others or whatever. But I think a good strength coach should be able to be able to be able to articulate, like I said, what his program looks like, what it does, and then also be able to coach it at a high level too. So, but I think the small characteristic and the difference between a good and a great strength coach, a great strength coach, we're talking about being able to say, hey, you start taking credit for certain things. Like good strength coaches say, okay, hey, not like being humble to a point where you're not like you know that you had a part in doing what you're doing. But great strength coaches consistently are people that behind the scenes are putting out fires before they even get to their head coach, and guys that are literally saying that, okay, we're trying to reduce the risk of injury and not, quote unquote, we talk about preventable things. Sometimes a lot of crazy things happen, but putting that together and like, okay, this is where we do this. This is how we do this, and just being a voice not a voice of reason, but a voice of change, and really being able to be that linchpin between the locker room, the coaching staff, and the weight room, and just being like a very well-rounded person too, because you got a lot of strength coaches like outside of like what their bachelor's degree look like. A lot of people just got a master's in sports management or human performance, strength and conditioning, and then they did get certified. But you have a lot of like psychology majors that were strength coaches, like Coach Jeff Madden. Like Coach Jeff Madden, like got a degree in psychology. Like, but when you talk about manipulating the mental aspect of it and putting the physical together, like those are guys, and then who consistently being able to show results and being able to put great athletes in positions. Like I've been able to work with great athletes. Like I said, guys that like just were genetically, and young ladies too, were genetically gifted. I feel like I'm a small piece. Like I said, that's all those them X and Y chromosomes that did a lot of the work. I think those are, like I said, two to like the smaller differences, but like good strength coaches, and if you come in and you're doing it for the right reasons as well. So I want to say that first and foremost, because some people try to get in it and they get out of it either because of, like I say, sometimes burnout of handling a lot of things and not really prioritizing the life outside of the weight room, but then also making sure that like it's not just a salary based thing. Yes, the salary is important sometimes, a lot of the times, because you need to make a living and you need to be able to be smart with your finances, but don't just do it just because, okay, hey, I want to be the, like, so you have the dreams and aspirations. Okay, I want to be the first $1 million strength coach, or like I said, well, now you're not going to be the first, but still, like, you want to be, I want to have this salary, I want to do this, and then if I don't make this, well, then I'm going to go ahead and quit it. Well, of course, obviously you didn't get into it for the right reasons, because, like I said, the right reasons, I think at the end of the day, are being able to pour into athletes, women and men, to be able to make, like I said, better citizens of the community. And like I said, you can do that through the blend of athletics and hard conversations, but then also being able to say, hey, life sometimes is going to kick you and push you down, but at the end of the day, giving them the techniques to be able to get through it in sport will help them in life.
Yep, and you obviously got to get better each year as a strength coach. How do you develop as a strength coach, and what advice would you give young strength coaches who are wanting to be better or learn what to do?
So for me, how I get better is I challenge myself to read more. Um, I am a kinesthetic guy. I like to do. And if I see a video or something, I like to go ahead and try it and then see how it feels on my body before I try to implement it into any of my programs or any team that I'm working with or anything like that. So like being able to read more, and then also like going to conferences or going to just talk and reaching out to different people. And I think I'll probably bug the crap out of a lot of people when I was trying to get into business. Even when I was a young coach getting into the business, I'm like, I reached out. I'm like, hey, I want to know about your journey, how you do things. And I think that's how I've developed some long-lasting relationships now But don't be afraid to, like you say, pull up on somebody. Don't be afraid to, like, hey, coach, I just want to go see a training session, or I just want to come talk shop and look at the facilities. And sometimes, those small genuine acts sometimes end up getting you a job or a call later on in life, or in your career. Because shoot, if you somebody say, hey, if you need anything, reach out to me. And sometimes it feels good if you really reach out and somebody's able to help you, and that holds true versus them just saying it and them it being empty words. But for young strength coaches, I would say, like, hey, communicate, man. Like, send emails, send text messages. Like, you got social media now, or if you really want to even go the extra mile, hey, like, write a letter, get the school address from the athletic directory website, and write a letter. I know I did that before, and it was like, hey, 'cause, I not had the best handwriting, but I dang sure did it. So, and I know, like, when you get to new places, like, and don't forget to thank the people that helped you along the way. Because sometimes, like, even if you just say send a quick text message or something like that, or like be creative, be genuine about what you're doing, and just treat people right. Treat people right, because I know people, like I said, we are humans, are who we are. Like, everybody's different, and everybody has their faults. But as long as you continue to treat people right and do things for the right reasons, then I think you'll be able to succeed in life and in this profession.
For sure. And last question, you've given a couple of them, but give your last shout outs. Anybody, that's been there for you, that helped you get to where you are.
Oh, man, well, again, just like I really should have started off with this one, man. Just like, hey, man, just think about my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, man. He's like literally the reason why I'm here, the reason why I've been able to do a lot of things. Like I say, he probably has the roadmap and the plan. He sees what my life is already going to be before I've even saw it. So I'm just excited to be here now at Prairie View, and then just all the places that I've been, and just this opportunity. And Coach Torrey Beckton, like I said, Coach Nick Savage, Coach Keith Swift, Kerry Thompson, Jeff Madden, Corey Hammond, and then even Coach Allison Randall. And she has been a consistent force ever since I reached out to her when she was in Virginia Tech, and now, like I said, she's at UT Arlington now, and she's giving me advice as we've both been through some stuff over the last years, and like anytime I need to ask a question, she's there. Again, Coach Zach Agenberger, the Coach Hill, Coach Edmond, Coach D-Mac, like all those guys, like Coach Vaughn, and just the rest of that staff at Texas. I always want to thank all of them, and then even the administrators along the way. That's really been big for me. And then lastly but least, like all the athletes I've been able to coach and pour into. Like, thank you for putting up with me sometimes them early morning lifts, and hey, like I said, pushing you to sometimes limits that you didn't think you could go to. And it's been exciting to see how they've grown, and like I said, once they matriculated from school and into the professional world. So I just really want to thank them, and also, like I said, lastly, man, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this, really have.
Well, you're the man. That's all I hear about is how great you are. So got to have you on the show, and thank you for spending time and being on this. I know our schedules are busy. It's asking a lot of me to get you in the middle of off season, so I can't thank you enough for this.
Of course, man. Listen, because, hey, matter of fact, last question. You done had all the questions, but I said I got one more.
Yeah, what's
Hey,
up?
tell me, how was it like winning a national championship this year? And when, like I said, when I first got here, we had a lot of stories and stuff like that. Man, hey, we played the national championship game, like we weren't able to get it done, and everybody was like, man, who was that quarterback? While everybody was thinking, like, quarterback you had, that young man, they thought he was a transfer somewhere, had been a P4 level guy that came down to Ferris State, but he was a doggone freshman. Talk about how that experience was winning a national championship, and then being able to coach him and see the things that he put together within that team, and of course, like being a freshman, like being able to rally and win that starting job and take y'all all the way there.
For sure. Like you said, I'm truly blessed. And I can't believe I'm here half the time, man. These guys are freaks, and they love the weight room. I think the biggest thing here is these guys want a red shirt and develop and get better. There's no like, all right, I'm not playing, I'm leaving. They want to show that they can play, and so they live in the weight room. Like that quarterback today did 335 on bench. He's not just like the typical quarterback that don't want to get their hands on. Like these guys are crazy. All year I'm thinking like, man, like I can't believe this is happening to me. You know, it is being an intern and working your way up. Like I started from the bottom, high school, and I worked junior college. Low level D2, head strength coach at Delta State, and then now here's it's just a standard that they uphold. All I can do is guide them and show them, hey man, like this is the way. Here's the way to be healthy. If you want to play a full season, we got to do this, this, and this. Didn't set in until about a month later. We're like, man, like we are national champions, and it's crazy to think about. Long story short, but truly blessed is the biggest thing.
Man, that ain't a lot. That's amazing, man. Like I said, you sat here and we talked about some stuff, and I'm like, hey, we definitely wanted to ask you that because when I looked at the game, and then I even replayed it, and when you just talk about like the size and the length, and like I said, some of the guys that you guys have up there, and you talk about people that were reaching out to him, and I probably like other guys on your team and stuff like that, because of course, linemen are premiums, and I got some pretty big guys.
Yeah, we only lost 3 guys, and so we're returning everybody but 3 guys, and 1 graduated, 2 went to the portal, and so one's at Michigan, one's at Bowling Green now, and they're starting spots. And like you said, at HBCU, you got guys who will go and start at Power 5, Group of 5 teams. Same thing with here. Like I think D2 has a lot of talent level as well, and we got a lot of D1 guys on our roster that aren't transfers. Our coach, he don't go after transfers. We might have like 4 or 5, maybe 6 on the team, but a lot of our guys have been here since freshman year, and they develop, and that's just the biggest thing.
Yeah, and that's good because and what people don't realize, a lot of D2 schools can compete and even beat some FCS teams because it's just that level of talent. Because just of the structure, how you can put together rosters and do some things in D2 and get creative. Because if you really got the skill and the know-how to do it, then you could really put together a squad of some guys that, if you get them all to buy in and do things the right way, that would really, really be able to compete, like I say, at the FCS level. So, but again, Coach, man, I appreciate you sharing that with me because, again, I watch your stuff, how you guys are doing some different things, and I'm like, shoot, okay. Yeah, this would be nice to do, but when you look at someone, just like you said, you got some genetic freaks up there. So, hey man, if you like I said, I know I need to come and shoot you a visit, and like I said, we go ahead and talk shop and do some stuff because definitely got to pick your brain a little bit more, maybe like I said, at a later date.
For sure, and same with you, Coach. And again, thanks for jumping on.
Of course, Coach. Well, listen, man, I appreciate it, man. And again, anytime you need anything from me, like I said, I'm only a phone call or a text away, and like I said, if I got anything on my mind, I'll definitely reach out. But like I said, I appreciate this opportunity, and just like how we say when we rally our team up, hey, go Panthers.
Yes, sir. Thank you for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. You can also follow us on Instagram for more updates at Under the Barbell Strength Podcast, and if you know someone who would love this episode, please share it with them.